how is generative AI fundamentally different from regular AI? Generative AI creates things. It generates new content.
Okay.
Regular AI, like your cruise control or the Pandora list or whatever else, it doesn't actually create anything new. It
Right.
gives you a prediction of out of a list of things that already exist.
Welcome to Health Hats, the podcast.
Gen AI, at its core, has a natural language input, some understanding, some reflection, and then it generates an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is a string of words that all come one after the other, and the algorithms behind it tell it what the most likely next word is, which is fascinating.
Yes.
Because, you can only do that if you've got billions and billions of data points and billions of reinforcement learning and weights that eventually give you the right word after the word that came before it, and in context.
It is kind of funny that I don't know, funny is not the right word, but it is amazing that it's word by word.
And it's word by word, but based on all the other words before it, and based on all the other text that it's seen before and understand and so forth. So that is an important thing to realize about Gen AI, is that its core
is creative. This is an AI-generated voice.
AI before that never was creative. It was a computer program. It would give you the same thing every time. You give it a particular input, it gives you the same output every time. Gen AI, not like that. You ask it the same question 3 times in a row, you will get a different answer 3 times in a row. And that is something that, as a computer programmer, my background as a computer programmer, if that had happened when I was writing code, it would have been a bad thing. It needs to be reproducible. This is not fundamentally different from any computer science code that anybody's ever written before. And the point of the whole thing. These models basically, they have natural language processing as at their core, and then they are being fed all kinds of information, essentially the entirety of the public internet. They ingest it in whatever manner that actually happens, and they remember it way better than we do. And then when you ask a question, again, natural language processing goes through what they call deep neural networks.
Right.
And so the brain of large language models is essentially modeled on human brains. And they actually call them neurons and neural networks. They're layers of pieces of code. And when you visualize them in a diagram, they basically look like little dots, and they could be neurons or whatever else. And these things will fire in one way or another on each layer and go to the next thing and fire one way or another, and then come out with some answer.
Is it like, so it's called neural network. So is that like people networking? Like, I'm a networker, so I know a lot of people, and I know thousands of people, and I'm always trying to make connections. Is that like a manual neural network? Or I don't know the neural part, but
I think you could look at it you could think about it that way for sure, because it's a network of a predetermined number of layers of millions of neurons each or something like that. And they connect with each other in various ways. And those pathways, when the answer is correct, those pathways get recorded as a good answer. Reinforcement learning, I said this on step 1 and that on step 2 and this on step 3, and I was told it's right, so I'm going to remember that. And each one of those knows of like 17,000 possibilities or people that they could go talk to get further in the answer.
Right.
The thing that's crazy to me is that nobody actually knows exactly how they work.
Even the programmer?
The people who created large language models cannot tell you what the answer is going to be when you ask the question.
Okay.
Nobody knows exactly. In fact, there are researchers now who are doing research on ChatGPT and other language models to try to figure out what the patterns are. Are they reproducible? Can we predict what is going to happen? As far as I know, nobody has broken through that, which is fascinating because all of these, each one of the pieces of code is a very finite piece of code that is very explainable, but there's so many of them, millions of them and thousands of layers, and they can connect in all kinds of different ways.
Wow.
And so nobody
I host, write, and produce Health Hats the podcast with assistance from Kayla Nelson and Leon and Oscar Van Leeuwen. Music from Joey Van Leeuwen. I play Barry sax on some episodes alone or with the Lechuga Fresca Latin Band. I'm grateful to you who have the critical roles as listeners, readers, and watchers. Subscribe and contribute. If you like it, share it. See you around the block.